So my name's Dominic Campbell. I run a company called future-gov. I am really excited to be here. I've been to Belgium a few times, but never anywhere other than Brussels. So it's nice to get out of Brussels for once. I'm going to be talking to you about, I guess, my thinking from having spent 15 years working in local government and outside local government, trying to change the way that we deliver services and the role that technology and digital has within that. I'm going to be talking a bit about design as well, because for me, a lot of this comes down to design rather than digital. But hopefully you'll see that as I go through my presentation. This is where I learnt local government. As you can tell, the home of innovation. Very, very exciting place to be. I have a lot of love for local government, as you can probably tell. I don't think anyone works in local government if they don't love it. It's not always the easiest place to be, but it's where you can make a real change happen. As you can tell, the history of local government is really not about necessarily delivering services that are necessarily customer focused or citizen focused. This building is not designed for transparency. It's not designed for you to find the people who are working on your local public services. It's much more about sitting in a corner and designing services and doing things to people in local areas. But all of that is changing massively. And in many ways, I think it is now through digital and other things, providing all of us as people passionate about public services with an opportunity to redesign those services for the 21st century. Just quickly about what we do. So I run a company that is all about digital and design. When I was inside local government, I used to do big transformation programs that always cost a lot of money, because that makes you feel like a man when you spend lots of money on big change projects, using really bad change management processes, where you pretend that you can predict the future and you plan 3 years ahead in very big detail. And quite often you spend more money than you intended and had less impact than you intended. And really, for me, the last 6 or 7 years has been a journey of discovery around design and around user-centered services. And how you can actually start small, both in terms of the size of a project, talking to 1 or 2 people about the challenges they face, and designing services from the bottom upwards, and still being able to grow services and have large-scale impact without having to ask for lots of money and do lots and pretend that we can predict the future. And so design has been really important to the work that I do. We build technology as well. In many ways, the technology is always the last thing that we do, or the last thing we come to. So often people say, can we have an app for that? And I often say, why? What are you trying to do? What is the impact you're trying to have? And technology really should not be the thing that you ask for first. Digital is no different than old technology in terms of that. It has to be much more about what is the problem you're trying to solve and what are you trying to do with that. Once you get to that solution, technology in 2015, it is very hard to deliver public services and solutions without some element of technology. It might only be a Facebook page, but somewhere in the process you will be needing to understand how technology can do different things for you. We work around the world. We've worked in about 10 countries now, but we're mostly based in the UK and in Australia. But we've done work in places like Indonesia and the Philippines and Moldova and Georgia, and very interesting places that surprisingly have exactly the same problems and challenges that countries that have been doing this for a lot longer have. And in some ways, they have the advantage of being able to jump a stage of technology, and instead of going through the big, expensive, old technology that we all know, they can almost embrace digital and do things very differently. So obviously the world is changing massively. The world has changed hugely in the last decade. The internet has managed to permeate everything we do, including government. Government is very good at resisting change. It is very good at pretending that it is different to the rest of the world and that it can resist things like digital. But ultimately, digital is everywhere and is everything. And people's expectations are represented by the experiences they have outside of government. To people now, government is just another app. It is just another experience that they want to be as good as any other experience. Too often, when you're on the internet, you're having a good time using Amazon or something like that, and then suddenly you realize you're in the government bit of the internet because it doesn't look good, it doesn't work, you don't understand what they're saying to you, and you wonder why things have to be different just because you went from Amazon to a government website. They don't care about your history. They don't care about your culture. They don't care about your organizations and your politics. Your citizens just want very modern, very effective services like they can get from any other organization. And in order to get there, we have to think much bigger than we do right now. We are very good in government at thinking about small improvements and incremental change. That is the life of a bureaucrat. How can we be 5% better? How can we be 5% cheaper? And that's fine, and that has to happen. But also, where we're getting better is on transactional things, so forms on the internet to be able to apply for a service. We're getting better at that stuff. But again, that is taking an old institution and putting digital around it. It isn't about transformation. Too often we use the word transformation, but actually what we mean is make the same thing a bit digital, which is not transformation, I will tell you. And for us, there's three parts of design methodologies, design thinking that we think government can really use in order to actually transform the way that you work and the way that your institutions look. So service design is very much about advocating for the user, really trying to understand the challenges that people have in their lives and what their aspirations are, what they want to achieve in life. And then with organization design, which is about, okay, then if this is the type of service they want, what kind of organization do we need to have to deliver those services? Too often we say, let's have a restructure. Let's change management. Let's have a different structure without thinking about what is the user experience, what are the services that will benefit from that restructure. And it needs to be the other way around. And then product design is around technology. What technology then is useful in helping make that change happen? So why design? For me, as I say, like when I was in government, I had big, expensive technology and I had big, expensive project management. What I didn't have was human beings and the voice of the citizen. And for me, design is really, really important in being able to think both about the real needs of people, but also some creative solutions to their problems. But also importantly, and I know it's the same in Belgium as it is in any other country that we work in, the future is uncertain. The future costs less money. The services need to be better. But exactly what that looks like is really uncertain. We're at a point where we know the world has to be different, but we can't imagine it. And for me, sitting down and writing a project plan, a very certain project plan, in a time when we don't know what we want, is pointless. And instead, what design is good at uncertainty. It's good at a process, an open process, that leads you from the position of problems to solutions. It risk manages because it says, try something small, and if it works, make it bigger. And if it works, make it bigger. Rather than, let's ask for 10 million euro and spend it all and then hope it works, which is our methodologies generally of old. So this is the broad process of design. In many ways, nothing revolutionary. In many ways, it is very obvious. But also, we very rarely do it properly. Often we find in government, because we're all good at solving problems and coming up with ideas, we often start in the middle, where we start with, I've got a really good idea about how to solve this problem, instead of, what is the problem we're trying to solve? And spending a lot more time talking to people and trying to truly understand what they want. Too often we say, here is a menu of options that we have decided as government, which ones do you want? And then members of the public say, well, none of them. Or, I suppose it's better than nothing, but actually I wanted something entirely different. Can I have that, please? And we say, no, sorry, we haven't designed that service. Whereas really we should be thinking about, well, what are the true solutions to their problem from their point of view? And part of design is about imagination. I don't know the situation in Belgium, but in the UK, too often people say, which bit of government is best and how can we copy it? To which I say, none of it is good enough. Why don't you copy other industries and other things that are happening in the world? Think about the way that Netflix provides you with personalized movies to watch, or Amazon recommends products to you because it knows who you are. Government never does those things. It just says, uniformly, we have one offer for everybody. And by copying other bits of government, we will never actually imagine and dream and do different. So, for instance, how could you learn from Formula One? How could you say, okay, so this is an interesting way of working. They obviously have limited time, a certain amount of resource, and they have a very specific job to do. But how could that then be used in a medical environment to learn for how you could do an operation more efficiently? Rather than saying, who does operations the best? Ask the question, who works as a team the best? And how can we learn from them? And I think that's the same in any part of public services. How do we learn from outside of where we are? And the best way to get into imagining a future that is different is to truly spend time with your customers or your citizens, really understanding their lives. And that involves empathy. It involves finding ways to actually have permission to do that. Our incentives are not to spend time with our customers, but to be about implementation of projects, where we should be thinking much more about listening to people. So for one example of very practically how you could implement this as a methodology or to make a difference. So this is a friend of mine, Denise, and a true story. She got MS when she was 24. She has a degree in chemistry from a good university. She is very bright, very intelligent. She knows how to look after herself. But when she was 24, she wasn't able to walk. She was in her bed and scared and needed support from government for the first time. She needed support around staying healthy, staying fit, needing somewhere new to live because she couldn't afford her house anymore, finding a job. And so she expected that it would be easy to ask for help and to be able to have a package of support that would enable her to have a better life, because that's the role of government, right? We're there mostly for the 20% of people who need us in a more deep way. But as it turns out, the customer experience of government is pretty awful. It is complex, it is confusing, and it really doesn't help at a time when you are scared or you need support. So this is just one tiny example of the complexity that Denise faced when she was looking for help from government. So she wanted somewhere to live, and the local government where she lives has 3 different housing teams with different housing-related names, which apparently she's meant to understand what that means, and ring the right number and talk to people in the right order, fill in 50 pages worth of forms for each of them, even though she's already told her story once, and she doesn't feel like she should have to say it again, because she truly doesn't care whether she's speaking to housing, social services, health, or the job centre. She really just wants to tell her story once. These are her aspirations. These are the challenges she faces. Can you please make sense of it and help me? Instead, it took 3 months for her to receive any welfare. It took 9 months for her to get any offer of housing. And after the last 9 years of her life, she still couldn't tell you that she was an expert in how to understand government and how to help other people make sense of it. But equally, she shouldn't have to. We live in an age where digital empowers us, and people with disabilities are, we run an online community of people with disabilities, and they feel some of the most empowered by digital. There's this, there are certain disabilities where the internet is very scary and confusing, but for an awful lot of people with disabilities, it is a very empowering situation where Denise receives her shopping delivered to her house, where she's able to talk to people and feel less lonely when she's in her house. A whole range of things. But when it comes to things like booking a doctor's appointment or finding housing or getting a job, the internet is no use, because the government bit of the internet is as fragmented and complex as the real-life government processes. And there really is no excuse for it in 2015. The internet has been around for a while now. It's a good 15 to 20 years since people started understanding the internet. And government really needs to do better. And then designing its services in a much more simple way. So imagine a world where she could just essentially tell her story to government once, and then beyond that go down certain very simple channels. Give me my options around housing, give me my options around jobs, give me my options around transport, and how can digital help those services? And actually build services in the mindset of a real human being. So how do you get there? Well, as I say, we need to think about customer needs or client needs or citizen needs, however you like. rather than business needs. Think about the last time you bought a new piece of technology or a new service for government. Did you have a single user story in it? In your tender document? In your ODU procurement document? Did you say, here is a picture of somebody who we would like you to support with the outcome of this tender? We don't care about the technology solution, we care about the impact that you can help us achieve. It isn't how we talk. We say, we make it all very serious and very process-driven. Can you help us as an organization save money and improve our internal processes? Rather than, can you help improve the customer experience and also save us money? But importantly, build services for citizens. So imagine Airbnb for government. Imagine has everyone used Airbnb? Anybody used? No? Yeah. Uber? Anyone like? All of these services. So simple. And the beauty of it is that it's not about digital as such. It is about how digital can help you deliver seamless services. So if you imagine, it's about, from the minute you start using Airbnb on your phone to when you're in somebody else's house, renting it from them, it is all about how does it make you feel good? How can you have a very simple, easy experience, but also one that makes you feel good? And I think public services can do the same. I think they can do the same. Importantly, though, we don't think about this as a one-off experience. In the UK, in 2005, maybe earlier, there was an e-government fund, and the Tony Blair's Labour government gave £1 billion, amazingly, to local government to create e-government services. I don't know where that money was spent. If you look at local government websites in the UK, there is not £1 billion worth of digital in local government. But what we did was, by doing that, it was a one-time thing. Digital and service change wasn't embraced as an ongoing process. It was buy a website and put it on the internet, and then leave it because you don't value digital, and then go back to your normal business. What we need is a mindset of constant design, redesign, listening, learning, changing, doing small things that add up to large impact. So to do that, it's a very simple process, essentially, of understanding your place, understanding your organization, understanding the people in your organization and the people they serve. Triaging, so filtering the different opportunities so that you're matching organizational needs and political needs with citizen needs, and coming to some design solution that does both, and start to build prototypes, very small new ways of testing your idea and seeing how they work with 10 people before you go to 100 people, before you roll it out across the whole of your area, and then test it and learn and deliver it. And the way that then might, eventually you might get to a point of a restructure, of a new way of organizing your local government, but that's last. Because what you've said is, what is the problem? How do we build a service that solves that problem? And how can technology help? And then, what institution do we need to deliver those services? Not the other way round. And so you might imagine that you become the find a job manager because all you want to do is own a simple customer journey to help someone like Denise be able to come to you and say, I want to find a job. And you help them. And it's super simple, and it's all in the language of your citizens rather than the language of government. and there may be another manager of find housing, but it's all very human in comparison, rather than now, which is things like the housing maintenance and reablement team. I don't know what that means. I'm sure you don't either. And an example where this is happening in a very big scale is some work we're doing in Australia, where they're transforming children's services in New South Wales for children in care and for child protection. It's called Safe Home for Life. So they have a population the size of London spread across the geography of Western Europe with one social services team. So it's big and complex and a bit broken. And what they've done is, before procurement, we worked with them to do prototyping, to try and help them understand what do people really want. Before you go out and buy another big system, what services do people want? How can you really help them? It's not very often that government sends you an agenda like this. Instead of a Word document, it was a pencil drawing of come and do this for 2 days, where we talked about the challenges of being in care of children's services with social workers, with teachers, with children in care, with their carers and parents. And as you can see, we were designing and building new kinds of services in the same room as them for 2 days. And we took those ideas, and then we spent another 3 months working with them to test the ideas and to grow them and to broaden them out, to work with a real range of clients to say, is this the sort of thing you mean? And ultimately, we built a big collection of technology with services around them from the perspective of those people, not from the perspective of the head of IT, but from the perspective of practitioners and clients, to help them in their process. And it was all based around quality user experience. How do you make it easy? How do you make it collaborative and personalized? All of these principles are really important when you're thinking about what do you want your organization to look like? What are the founding principles that you think are important to you when you build new services? So one example is a client record, a case management where both the children and families and the social workers can see the record and contribute to the record of the child and their family. It's very simple. This is the professional's view. We find that if we make it too nice, people don't trust it. So we have to make it less pretty because it's government and you can't believe that you can have nice technology in government. So it isn't trusted, so it's toned down. The client view, the children's view, is much more like Facebook or similar. But essentially, it is bringing transparency to the process. Both sides can see what is happening, what care is happening, what events are happening. And also, it allows the families to talk about positive things as well. Because too often we only ever record bad things, like not going to school or bad health. But the families told us that they want to say, I got a gold star today, or I scored a goal in football. Things that are much more human. Government generally doesn't care about that. It cares about, have you been to school? Have you got an A? Also important, but we need a full view of people and what we're trying to achieve. So that's rebuilding organizations. Sometimes you might need to say, this bit of government is so broken, we should just start again and switch it off and really start from a blank piece of paper. And so we tried that with Meals on Wheels. Does that mean anything? So food, like delivering food, government delivering food to older people. And we said, well, what would you do if you started again? No government, no organisation, no nothing. So we thought, well, it's a bit like a dating site. It's like Tinder or something similar, Match.com. How can you connect communities between someone who has an extra plate of dinner and somebody who would like to eat their dinner in their local neighbourhood? And so we built Casserole Club as a way of matchmaking people in communities to be able to eat together and it started off about Meals on Wheels, about a government service, but now it really has nothing to do with Meals on Wheels. Almost all of this is about social interaction, about improved lives, about reducing isolation, increasing happiness. Things that government generally doesn't think too much about. How can we make people happier is not often a performance target. And so we do things like put cakes outside doors to recruit people and try and bring them into the service. But there is a really important role for government that we've built into Casserole. So we think government is very good at being trusted, and also you have some resources like your communication channels and your customer service, your telephone number. So people ring the government to register to eat food, and then people online register to cook for people. And so we do a matchmaking service in that way. And again, this started with one street. It started with 100 houses where we tested it for very little money because we wanted to see, will people do it or will they kill each other? That nobody killed anybody, so that was good, and people do it. And so we said, okay, great. And we started with a mobile phone and a piece of paper, so no technology really. Then when it worked, we went to 1,000 households and we built a little bit of technology. And then when that worked, we released it to the whole country and we built a bit more technology. But technology is not the purpose of this service. Technology is the smallest possible thing we could make it to have the biggest impact. And so it really is just a very small matchmaker in the middle to say, you want to eat, you live here, you want to cook, you live here, get together. And that's all it does. We now have it live in about 10% of the UK with 7,000 cooks and about 500 diners. And people are happily matchmaking. And we're trying to work with government to change their role from a government that does service delivery to a government that acts as a dating agency, really, for communities, to matchmake people, to create public value. So that's it from me. My last message would be, go away and do it. Go on, off you go. Time to get creative. We need government to start stepping up and really trying these new techniques and seeing where it will take you. It's fun as well as it is important. So thank you very much.